Well, I mean, you can expect to hear the band, the Nomads, with myself, Chris Mingdoki, and Dave Weckel, Dean Brown, and George Whitty. And we're looking really much forward to playing this concert tonight. Absolutely. Like, any festival is important, but definitely a drum fest, I think, is really important because the drummers are the center of the band.
Thank you. You know, I was talking a little bit with the organizers today, and it's nice with the focus of the festival because most drum festivals are just a bunch of drummers together playing by themselves, which, you know, doesn't really mean anything, you know, musically, in a sense of playing with a band and playing with other musicians. So the idea was to have it be a drum fest, but drummers within musical situations, which is great because that's what I like to do most. Is play with great musicians like Chris and George and Dean and play great music like this and in a supporting role, and yes, play drum solos too, but it's mostly about supporting, you know, playing songs and making a statement within the music that's there. So it's really great.
So what would you like to say to young people who would love to play just like you someday?
Well, that's most of the battle actually, is really having the dedication and the desire to want to play. If you have that desire and you want to play, then I say don't let anything stop you, and do it as much as you can and practice hard, because there's no shortcuts, there's no easy way. It takes a lot of dedicated time and sacrifice for other things to do anything well, but especially in art like music, because it's always something that you know, the instrument stays one step ahead of you, and there's always something new to learn.
And here we're trying to understand the role of the drummer in the band, but sometimes they are just invisible in some bands, and people don't realize how important they are, and we think that they are underestimated somehow.
For me, both as a musician but also as a listener, the drums is the core of the band. I mean, if the drummer has a bad day, everybody has a bad day. So the drums is so important. Absolutely. So I don't subscribe to the idea of the drummer being invisible. Not at all.
I think it depends on the music. I mean, a lot of the times the pop shows and things like that, the focus is definitely not so much on the drummer. The role of what's going on from the drummer is always the same. It's important in the sense, like Chris says, without a solid drummer being there to support the band and give the whole backbone of the rhythm, the rest of the band can be very good, but it won't sound so good, you know. So, but whether they're visible or not, I think really depends on the music and the situation, you know.
And the way you sound depends on the equipment or your skills. Could you play on bad instrument? Could you play good on bad instrument?
Well, I'm sure with Dave would sound like Dave on a pair of cardboard boxes, I'm sure. It's all in the hands. Like, a lot of people always think about, you know, like a lot of young musicians think they need this kind of equipment or this and that to be able to have a sound. But the sound comes from the musician, first of all. Of course, it can improve a lot. Also, your facility on an instrument can improve on your equipment. But first of all, the sound comes from the musician.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes us all different, is that the touch, the physical makeup, and what we do to put the physical aspect of what we do, through the emotional, through the physical, into the instrument, makes us sound the way we sound. With an instrument like drums, granted, with all of us, really, we could sit down pretty much and play any instrument that is our instrument and sound like us pretty much, because, you know, we've spent our life developing our touch on the instrument and the way we sound. But having said that, your instrument does become an extension of who you are and what you want to say, because you have, at least for me, I have a vision of how I want my equipment to sound when I touch it, and I'm always in constant, you know, search of the response from my vision of what I want it to be.
And you are one of the best drummers in the world.
Well, let me say something right away. Thanks, but there's no such thing as best in music. In music, you know, this is an art, it's not a sports competition, so what makes us all different is the God-given grace and ability to be different. And to say best or better is really, it's just not applicable for me. It never has been in music, and I'm sure we all feel the same way.
How do you measure it? It's like...
Okay, so you have cooperated with so many people from music industry. Who was the most important person for you, individual?
Well, I mean, again, it's hard to say just one person because everybody...
Impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, but if I try, I mean, I can't even see... Yeah, no, yeah. No. It's like everybody I've played with, it's all been special, and it's all been different aspects.
Yeah, I mean, we all grow up, listening to, I mean, this is why we choose to do what we do, because as young players and young people, we were inspired by players, that we like to listen to, and different musicians, even whether we knew it or not at the time. A lot of the drummers that I was listening to, I was inspired by the drummer, but I didn't even realize that I was inspired by the music that the drummer was actually playing, because he was with all these great musicians, So it's never just one, it's always, and you also go through periods, and you're exposed to different musicians, in different periods of your life, so.
And how do your story with this instrument began?
When did you start?
I started playing bass really late. I was 15. I was working in a music store, and they gave me a bass they couldn't sell. And then by accident, I had this bass, and a friend of mine was putting together a band, and I was playing the bass.
I actually started, I wanted to play guitar when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I started to try to play, and it was like, it's all these, my fingers and the small strings. I was like, nah, let me hit something, I was banging on boxes and my mother's pan lids on the bed, and my father finally saw the interest and bought me a very cheap small drum set. And I started just to play to records when I was about 8 years old, play to records and just listen, and it came easy to me, so I got pretty good quick because it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And
so do you imagine not being a drummer?
do I imagine?
Do you imagine, like, if you wasn't a drummer, who would you be? What would you like to do?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I like sports, so I would probably do something in the sports arena, but I have a feeling no matter what it would be involved in the arts or music or something having to do with that.
I guess it's the same. I mean, music is where I feel at home, for sure. Yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else, but...
I think for all of us it would be something creative, something that we would have, that we'd be in control of our own destiny as far as whether we got good or better at it or not. Most certainly not a desk job or a 9-to-5 normal existence is so foreign to all of us. We can't comprehend that. And for me, I've never done another job. It's always been music, and I think for all of us, pretty much, we had the vision very early on, and we went for it.
I don't want to keep the crowd waiting because I know that they are waiting. So, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your staying in Poland. Thank you for this interview. Thank you.